Good morning, friend. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever time zone you are, my friends. And welcome to the session on unlocking FIDIC contracts and management. Some of you may be thinking out, is there only one type of FIDIC contracts? There are a wide range of FIDIC contracts for different applications. And I'll certainly share with you, the key points, what I have learned in my life of around 50 years in supply chain and management in different countries. Now, well, the FIDIC contracts provide, if I had to say in one line, the FIDIC contracts provide tested and trusted structures around. There are a wide range of structures. Each country have their own contracts around. World Bank has got their own contracts around. Asian Development Bank has got their own contracts around. World African Development Bank has got their own, but this one is the most trusted one when it comes to international contracting around. Well, the introductory, if I say, might be dealing in infrastructures, consulting engineering, or procurement. You will certainly come across FIDIC, all of you. But again, FIDIC is not for the low value contracts. For low value contract, it becomes too heavy hammer for you. But what does it mean is in your day-to-day procurement work? Some of you may be thinking, the FIDIC sounds very big name. What is for me in procurement? So certainly I'll try to share some experience on that as well. Now, what it can do to protect both employer and contractor. So there are two players in the game. Employer means, this is the terminology used by the FIDIC and the World Bank. Employer means the people who give the contract. So let's say you are dealing with from the government or the private sector. You are giving a contract, so you are the employer. Then the other side is a contractor. And this is very fair game when I use FIDIC. And the beauty of FIDIC, it covers the complete contract cycle. We call contract life cycle. So it's a very effective, very useful, and this has been used for more than 100 years. Now, in this next 1 hour, what I plan to cover up is to cover the key points around. And then this will be followed later on with 2 days training program Shubham will share with you. So let's try to sit together in the next 60 minutes, unlock the value of FIDIC together. So my request will be some people will have to mute so that we don't disturb the sound. Please mute yourself here. Now, what are you expecting in this 60 minutes? Plus, I'll certainly give some time for the question answer. First thing is the global relevance and structure of the FIDIC contract. FIDIC contracts have a wide range of books like Yellow Book, Green Book, Red Book, White Book. I'll cover all of them. But since the time is limited, I'll give you a good glimpse of that. What is the relevance of this? And what is the structure of this one's around? Core contract types. The core, which are the one which it started from, the red was the first one. The red is the color of the book. I don't have here because presently I'm in the US. But when I would go back to my home, I'll certainly next time I'll show you the books around. Yellow Book and Silver Book. Now, key provisions. What are the key provisions? I'll try to touch on it. Obviously, the contract means to mitigate the risk for both. If I am the employer and you are the contractor, or you are the employer and I'm the contractor, we want to do a very good risk allocation. Common issues and how does FIDIC helps to resolve them? This is the most plus point of FIDIC. First thing is very international, effective. Second, when it comes to the mitigating the risk part, suppose if we are working as an employer and a contractor, there's a dispute. It happens, big contracts. I remember the contract we had about $2 billion in Iraq. Contracts always have some disputes around. How do we handle them? That's the key thing around. So this is where the FIDIC outbeats all other contracts. We have contracts. World Bank has got their own. Asian Development Bank has got their own. In the UN also we had our own. Private sector have their own. But FIDIC outbeats everyone. Now, practical insights. So I'll certainly touch on the key points around. So with this and the role of AI, I'll touch a little bit because the time will not permit us. But let's build our capacity to manage contract. Because this is the most problem with all big high value contract of $10 million, $20 million. I'm not talking the small value. Less than $5 million, I will not even advise you to go with FIDIC. Anything more than $5 million, then yes. But then how to manage it more efficiently and fairly. That's very important around. Now, what is FIDIC? Now, what is FIDIC is, first thing is, I'm just giving in English, that's a French word. It stands for International Federation of Consulting Engineers. It publishes all suites of international recognized standard form, the wide range, the blue color, the green color, I'll tell you all of them. FIDIC contract define the roles and responsibility. So if two players are involved around, what is the role of this guy? What is the responsibility of the other guy? And what could be the potential risks today around? And if the risks are there, they will not leave, this contract doesn't leave us there. It also gives you remedies there. If I tell you, here is a risk, the contract has been extended, design was not ready, the land was not available, product was very faulty. Now there are remedies also into this. So that's a good thing about it. So this covers again the key players are employer, the guy who gives the contract, contractor who does the job, an engineer who represents the employer. So if you are having a big contracts around, so we were doing electrification project in those days when I was a chairperson for the UN in Iraq. So we were the employer, but then we had a contractor and then we hired some engineers who were supervising on our behalf. The very most commonly used FIDIC contract types. If I started my journey 30, 40 years back, the very first book was Red Book. Construction. Any big construction work where the design is done by the employer. Then there's a yellow book. We call design and build. So the design is also there and build is done by the supplier. So what we say design and build, the supplier does the design, supplier does the construction, but supplier doesn't give you the end things around it. Let's say if I'm making a hospital building, the guy will make a building, design the hotel, hospital, make a building, but inside I want to buy MRI equipment, I want to buy X-ray machine, they will not do it. It's a yellow book. But silver book is a turnkey. The name turnkey means you will do complete things and give me the key. I start the key and the plant works. Hospital works, school works. So those are the turnkey projects where we call them EPC type also. The white book is another common book for consulting service. If you're doing a big consulting work of $4 million, $5 million, and then yes, I'll go with the white book. Now the brief history of this one again, since it's very well known, started in 1913 in Belgium by National Association of Consulting Engineers from Belgium, France, and Switzerland, 3 countries. But later on, it is expanded to around 100 countries, more than 100 countries. I'm sure all of you people who are here must have come across FIDIC for high-value contracts. For low-value contracts, it's a too big hammer. So global influence. Over the decades, FIDIC became the de facto global authority of standard engineering. You talk of any engineering project, you talk of construction contract, it becomes authorities around. Now, why do we need contracts around? Obviously, when two people are involved around employer and a contractor or a supplier versus buyer, you may call the word buyer sometime, in the procurement terminology, like a buyer and a seller. We want to protect ourselves. I'm signing a contract of $1 million, $500,000, even $10,000 or $20,000. I need a legal framework. In case you delay, in case you don't give me a good product around, or I'm making the bridge collapses around, people die. So legal framework I need around. I need a clarity and mutual understanding. Contract is known to each para by para. Risk allocation. Risk could be the financial risk. The guy comes up, he says, sorry guys, the prices have gone up. The tariff has gone up. Material prices have gone up. I can't do in this price. So in those situations, So in those cases, certainly I want to cover my risk around managing changes and dispute. There are changes happen. I might have designed a project, but then later on I find, oh, I did a mistake here. I want to change the design. I might be setting up a hospital. I might be making a highway. I might be doing any other projects around, like roadways, water system, power system, anything. I want to do distribution of power. So I need some changes here and there. Then risk allocation. Then performance monitoring around. You say, guys, performance is not affected the way it was designed. So those changes I can do with this alpha. Essential for procurement and project delivery. It gives you value for money. That's the way I will call it around. Now, the contract when we were saying around is between the two parties. Two or more persons in which the court will enforce. Now, the court will enforce means basically legally enforceable. Generates rights and obligations, and agreements arise. So this gives you the very basic definition of contract, irrespective it's a FIDIC contract or ICC contract or some other contract, your national contract. Like if I talk of India, India government may have his own contracts around, World Bank may have his own, US government may have his own. So each one may have its own, but FIDIC is a little unique from that angle. Any contracts, maybe FIDIC contracts, your own country government, with the Nigerian government or any governments around, 5 parameters are there. No contract can be formed without an offer. And there has to be acceptance. Acceptance means it's a mirror image. You can't say, I accept the offer, but this, but this. So but means you're giving a counter offer. So offer, acceptance. The third part is the consideration. Without money, no contract. If I go with the common law, most of the people who are from Anglophone countries, they follow the common law. While there are some countries, they follow the civil law. The civil law will be in the European side, you will see. Consideration is not important. So, but the rest 4, offer, acceptance, consideration, and the people who are signing a contract, they're competent. Not the guy signing a contract is less than 18 years and says, I'm competent. No, or mentally not stable. So it has to be competent. The legality of the purpose. No contract can be formed until legally it is enforceable. One can't say, guys, I want to do the mafia of drugs, I want to kill someone. That's not legal by any state, any country around. So elements of the contract, again, I'm trying to repeat before I proceed further. Very first thing is offer. Second is you have to have acceptance. Acceptance means mirror image. So two parties says, guys, after doing back and forth, finally, it has to be an offer and acceptance as a mirror image. The third thing comes consideration. I must have some money. I know sometimes we hire consultant on a pro bono basis. But even in the pro bono, we put $1 or whatever, one local currency, whatever is there. So there has to be consideration. In the European law, it is not must, but in other cases, it is there. Competent parties, as I explained to you. And the last one is legality of the purpose. The frequent problem which we have, and this is where the FIDIC will solve all of them, applicable law. Certainly FIDIC means there has to be some applicable law. I'm doing a project in Sierra Leone, I'm doing a project in South Sudan, I'm project in Poland, India, any US, any countries around. There is applicable law. Bidding strategies around, change of ownership. Ownership has changed. Change circumstances. Change of ownership means I was making some big hospitals under the P Public Procurement Partnership. Ownership changes. Currency fluctuations. I think our colleague raised around the question of currency fluctuation. This is certainly a big issue. I remember the days when I used to go in 1992, we were doing a project in Zimbabwe. Excellent currencies, but then within 2 years it collapsed for 30%, 40%. So then we had this issue. How do we handle such situation? So delays. So certainly currency fluctuation, we do the hedging part. I won't be going too much into depth of it. If I know my currency is fluctuating and is very volatile, So certainly I will do the hedging part. Otherwise, it's too difficult to manage it. Delays. Things get delayed. The project design is not ready. Land is not available. People are protesting it. So there are delays could happen around. Earthquake happens, flood happens. So delivery part, different business culture. So the contractor come from an X country and the project is in another country. They don't speak the same language even. Culturally, they don't understand each other. So those could create some confusion. Dominance, lack of specificity. Sometimes the designs are not very clear. Contracts are not very clear. So in this matter, specificity, I think FIDIC outbeats everyone. The languages, so that's also there, but not with the FIDIC. Now we have different legal system in the world. One is common law, which is used in most of the Anglophone countries, starting from US. I know Nigeria also follows that. Kenya also follows that. Many South Africa also follows that. So many people follow that. Then there are other countries which they follow civil law, which come from the Roman time. So you will find in Europe, except UK, I think all European countries, Francophone countries, Lusophone Africas, Latin Americas, Northern Africas, China, Japan, Koreas. So that system follows it. But broadly, if I say the definition of the contracts are more or less common in both the cases, except the consideration. In Muslim law countries, they also follow some part, very small part, the role of Sharias and non-Sharias laws around, but majority cases, they follow civil or common law. Tradition have an influence as well. What makes a good contract? When I say contract, whether a FIDIC contract or some other contracts around, or the World Bank contracts, other contract, what makes a good contract? What do you want? What do you want to avoid? And your option if things go wrong. Things do go wrong. I've got a contract of 3 years, 4 years, I've done those cases around. Things do change. So know your supplier. Aim at win-win. And don't think that you have to win because you are paying money. It has to be win-win for both to maintain a wonderful relationship. Don't accept unrealistic promises around. Avoid ambiguous drafting. Some people come with ambiguous drafting around, so drafting has to be very clear. Technology in mind. You might have designed something 2 years back and the new design comes up around. So sometime new design comes up. So in that case, we have to do. Now, have a clear dispute resolution. This is where FIDIC outbids. How do we handle the dispute? If I go with my legal system, then it may take ages to dissolve it. But FIDIC is, I think, excellent on this pattern. Have a clear termination clause. One thing I always tell people, if you're getting into a contract, you must protect your back. You must have a clear termination clause that in case worst happen, you should be able to say bye-bye. If you're going into the trenches, you should know how to get out of it also. So that termination clause for convenience or for some other good reasons should be there. Without termination clause, don't try to get into that. Keep culture in mind. When you're doing a sign of contract, culture could be language, culture could be habits, culture could be many things. Now, FIDIC versus applicable law. Now, question comes, which law is applicable when it comes to FIDIC? FIDIC is a good thing, but doesn't have above the applicable law. That part has to be very clear. FIDIC is not a law. It's not a universal law for all the countries. No, not the least. But standard forms of contract. It's a forms of a contract. The local law prevails. That is no second thought about it. FIDIC recommends the use of arbitration and dispute avoidance. This is the beauty part of this around is that I could do the arbitration and dispute avoidance adjudication board, DAB, instead of litigation. Normal contracts, I go with the litigation. And litigation is the one which kills many of the places around 10 years, 15 years only in the litigation. But this one has built-in DAAB, dispute avoidance, how to avoid the disputes, how to adjudicate it, and the boards are there. FIDIC encourages DAB to be appointed at the start of the contract. But I'm not asking you for doing for 10,000, 20,000, no. If you're doing more than $5 million contract, then yes. But it helps a lot. I don't have to get into the trap of litigation. More comprehensive, much more detailed. No contract is more detailed than this, especially in areas when it comes to claims. So when it comes to claim, this is super. Variation, you want to change the design for some reasons, you're welcome. Extension of time, EOT. You want extension of time, guys. Now, something has relayed, the floods have come, earthquake has come, I want to extend the time around. Contractor will say, sorry guys, no, my people are already here. So certification, suspension, termination, and dispute resolution. I think if anything of this nature comes, those are built into the contract of FIDIC. When should we use this one? That's the first thing before I go into the depth of it. The project is complex. Normally people think FIDIC can be used only for international contract. Not necessary. Private sector does for local also. Even if the contractor is local, they may opt for FIDIC. It can be local or international. Both cases I can go with the FIDIC. Project is complex, very large infrastructures, large engineering power projects around. I'm setting a big dam. So in those cases, certainly I'll go with the FIDIC. There's a need for clear structure and balanced contract management. The project requires independent roles. So it defines a wonderful role for engineer, employer, and a contractor. And another thing which again, I'm repeating it on this, dispute resolution methods. You might be two good friends, fine, but contract do have disputes around. So that is where I think this one outbeats everyone. And that's what we call DAAB arbitration. This project, the project which are funded by the donors, whether it's African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, World Bank, any one of them, even European Bank, they normally try to mandate FIDIC because it covers quite a lot around. Now here it gives you World Bank, I would say if it is contract more than $10 million, FIDIC. Otherwise use the standard procurement document. World Bank has got SPDs. If some of you want, my team can help you. Shubham is already there, so he can provide you the copies of those. Asian Development Bank. I'll go with $5 to $10 million. African Development Bank, even if it is more than $5 million, same like Asian Development Bank, I will recommend FIDIC or similar structure. European Bank, more or less similar to. So in short, not less than $5 million. So that's not very effective. The global relevance of FIDIC comes around. The very first thing is standardized. So as you see, more than 100 countries are using it around. It's more like international standard. For what? Construction, engineering projects. I'm doing a water projects around. I'm doing power projects around. I'm setting up even big plants of oil and gas and infrastructure development. I think this is great. Red Book for building and engineering works. Anywhere you're doing building work, costing you more than $5 million, then certainly Red Book is the one. Then the next thing is the yellow one. The yellow book is for electrical and mechanical plants and design and build contract. As I said to you, the yellow is done, as the name indicates, they will design it, they'll build it. But they will not start the project around. They say, guys, here's the building, go and do it now. Fill it. Silver book means as a turnkey. They'll give me the key, guys, here everything is ready, just go and sit and start working. Green book is for short-term contract. Short form of contract, that means less than $500,000. If contract is less than $500,000, I'll go with the green book. Then I also got the gold book around. for long-term design, build, operate contracts. You're telling somebody to design it, build it. So we call DBO. We also call BOOTs. I'll explain a little bit more on those. You're giving a public-private partnership projects around. You may do that. Say, you design it, you build it, and operate also. But ownership remains with the government. Now, the global relevance, certainly multilateral and government projects. All banks are using it. Many national governments are trying to encourage use of it. Public infrastructures, large private sector infrastructure. Large infrastructure projects certainly also are trying to make use of this around. Promotes fairness and balance. Balance in the terms of roles and responsibility. Dispute resolutions. Flexibility. We don't want a contract set in stone for next 4 years, and then we learn, oh no, we want to make a change here. The guy is trying to make us for too much demand on the pricing side, all those things. So all that flexibility is there around. Training and capacity building. So FIDIC provides extensive training program. They have their own capacity building. Supports sustainable and ethical practices around on the area of health, sustainability side, and ethical and anti-corruption practices as well. Now, why FIDIC matters in today's world? Today, we are doing a lot of cross-border collaboration on infrastructure. Reduces the legal uncertainty in diverse jurisdictions. Encourages investment confidence. If I know it's a FIDIC contract, the people are willing to put their money into this. Supports effective project governance and dispute resolution. Now here comes a small milestones around. The very first book came in 1957. Recently, when 2021, after the COVID, they made few more changes around. So they included updates on sustainability, digital practices, which was not missing. That's why I was telling you AI and all those things. They did put something on digital practices and COVID-19 related adaptation. So it is updated to. So this is how the FIDIC claims are taken from the FIDIC book. It's a very balanced one, well tried, accepted, supported, and effective. Now, in the private sector also, it does big road into that. Large-scale industrial project, commercial project. It could be industrial facilities, could be energy plants, mining projects, where you want clear risk allocation and global standard. Cross-border projects around. So between the two countries, neighboring countries, cross-border projects, because half the thing has to be done this side, but the origin may be the other side, then this helps a lot. EPC contract, turnkey projects. Example in the private sector could be oil refinery. Let's say I want to set up oil refinery in my countries around, but the plant and design is coming from the US around. So those type of things, I could have a turnkey project. Renewable energies plants, industrial manufacturing plant, petrochemical facilities, extraction and processing. I have got a big mines of lithiums, I've got a mines for iron ores, I've got cadmium, copper. I can do all that thing around for them. Now the key distribution between the public and the private, if I say, I know many of the people are from public and private sector, those who are participating today. So in the private sector, certainly commercial project focus. In the case of public sector, it is infrastructure development. I want to make a big highway. I want to make a big bridge. I want to make a hydel plant. I want to set a power plant. Schools, hospitals. So public sector also takes the benefit. Funding source, in the case of private, certainly there's a loan, there's the equity, there's the investments. The preferred FIDIC contracts. In the case of public sector, red book. Pink book is also there, yellow book is there, and in this case it is red, silver, yellow, and gold book. Transparencies, and the last is complexity. The top sectors which FIDIC contracts are used: infrastructure development, those, I think roads, very common, bridges, common, railways, ports, energy. I want to set up a big power plant, renewable and non-renewable. So nowadays, I think on the renewable side, there's a big push. Transmission lines, all the things around. Water supply, industrial projects, urban developments. I want to set up a smart cities around. On those cases as well. Adoption by the World Bank, they adopted in pre-2000, you can say World Bank was using their own SPV. Still they do it. And any one of you are funded by the World Bank, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, they use their own standard bidding documents. But after 2005 onward, they're doing harmonization with FIDIC. And 2018, World Bank introduced its procurement framework. In 2016, they came up, allowing the use of FIDIC contract under conditions of contract for construction. For major civil works, the World Bank also promotes it. Same thing with the African Development Bank. Adoption by ADB on the same lines. But ADB started a lot way with public procurement partnership, public-private partnership, triple P. Why government adopts FIDIC? First thing is, if they're getting a funding from IMF, they're getting funding from somewhere else, it, I think, promotes them. Recognize international best practice. Ensures investors. Investor would love to know who's, before they put their money, guys, what type of contract we are managing around. Is it a FIDIC contract? Is it a local contract? Minimizes legal risk. India, we use quite a lot for metro rails. In all the major cities, we have metro rails now, roads, water projects, and similarly for the Middle East, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, gas, mega bank infrastructures. In majority cases, FIDIC was used around. Africa also same way. For the road projects, certainly, big road projects, water projects, energy developments. And Eastern Europe also, there are a lot of European funded, EU funded projects around under this. So when we talk of a red book, I'll give you little highlights on this. So when we do the full-fledged program, we'll be spending a lot of time on each one of them. Red book is the very first one of the FIDIC. Construction for building and engineering. Design responsibilities employer. That means the person who, you can say like a buyer, if you want to say that way. The government is doing, so we use the word employer. So construction part, design part is done by them. But typical use for traditional construction, where the employer designs the works around. Similarly, in the yellow books, the contractor, they design, they build. But they don't give you a turnkey thing. They just say, guys, okay, the building is ready now for the hospitals, for the schools. But then you have to fill it up and make it run. I want to set up a water plant. So that's the way we can use it. Silver book. As the name indicates, it is basically a turnkey project. So contractor, if I want to set up a turnkey project from an oil refinery, I'll say, guys, here is the land, here is the one. You do the design, you do the construction, and you make it run. And give me the key. Then I'll take over. So that's a turnkey. Why it is purely for consulting part, as I said to you. There's a green book, as I explained earlier, less than $500,000 contract. Because we don't want to have 20 pages, 30 pages of contract and supplier runs away. So for small values, I could have a smaller text. Gold books, again, design, build, and operate. Book, if I'm doing dredging, undermines, I'm doing the dredging part and the water comes out. So in those cases, the risks are very high. The dredging part and reclamation work, we use the blue book around. The selection guides, Again, I'll just very quick ones. Employer designs and projects, road buildings, water supply project funded by the donors. I'll go with the red book. Contractor designs and build, like water treatment plants, industrial facilities, public-private, again, projects around. I'll go with this one, the yellow ones. And the next one is the turnkey, when I'm doing power plants, highways, oil and gas, triple P projects. I'll go with the silver book. If I'm doing engineering things around, detailed design work, then I need a professionals. Somebody will come and design the whole structure. I want to make a smart city. I want somebody to make a good design for us first. So the design part, I can have a professional company with a white book. Green book means for maintenance purpose, minor works, and then pilot projects and dredging. So the dredging is again, if I'm doing some coastal projects around, I'm doing a port, then there's a dredging involved around. So certainly I can do the blue book. Then we have the gold books for triple P projects. If you're doing triple P, public procurement partnership, public-private partnership, we can do that. How to choose decision tree style? Who's responsible for design? The very first question. If you are responsible employer, then go with the red book. Is it a turnkey projects or EPC projects? Fixed price, fixed time? Then go with the silver or yellow, depends. Is it a consulting services agreements? If it's a consulting services agreements, around white book. Is it a small contracts, low value? Then go with the green book. So does it involve long-term operation maintenance? Go with the gold book. Dredging, blue. So it gives you a very small, quick selection which book I should follow on what situation. So why use? I think I've explained quite a lot already. Global standards ensures fair and transparent risk allocation, aligned with procurement best practices around. That means it ensures value for money. So it is not only based on price, it is also includes sustainability issue as well. Excellent for triple P projects. Supports complex multi-stakeholders. Again, the highlight of this one is dispute handling. Improves planning and contract management. Context, again, if I talk of India, I think I look at it as a big boon. India is also litigation heavy. Everybody comes and writes a big contracts around. Then we are going into the litigation. Litigation could take 10 years, 15 years. An investor says, guys, I'm not interested in a project like this. So to avoid those, people are switching over to FIDIC. So the FIDIC is to introduce the reforms to reduce the disputes around. The major focus is to reduce the dispute. New methods of dispute resolution. Arbitration is being pushed as a flag bearer. Firstly, they'll say, guys, we'll handle the dispute through the engineer. If it doesn't happen, then we have DAAB. If that doesn't happen, then we can go to arbitration. So this is how they try to cut short the cycle time. Professional recognitions. So career advantage for professional with knowledge of FIDIC. I think those of you who are having a full knowledge of FIDIC, understand the concept, it grows your careers. Everybody needs people who understand FIDIC. Flexible and customization framework. So keep in mind, FIDIC is not just a contract. Some people say, oh, I've got a contract, FIDIC. Yes, but it's a strategic procurement tool. It gives you the process as well. It empowers the procurement professional to manage the risk, aligns the best practices, and deliver complex project efficiently. So this one I can avoid it. I think it covered quite a lot. How FIDIC helps the procurement? Unclear roles. And the FIDIC, I have to spell it out very clearly. So FIDIC contribution is defined responsibility. The complete contract structure from beginning till the file is closed. It is not for signing a contract. It is the complete life cycle of the contract. under risk allocation, unfair risk allocation is if it's not there, but then FIDIC gives you a balanced risk allocation. Delays, things are getting delayed. You want extension of time for whatever reasons around. So then it gives you clear timelines when and how. Cost variation, cost goes up and down. Could be because of currency fluctuation, because of tariff, because of many things around. The world is too much volatile now. It's not that stable. So formal variation and valuation process. The legal disputes, under legal dispute, they get full marks how to handle it. Built-in dispute resolution framework. Donor compliance. And donor loves it and they accept it much faster if they have to put the money on it. Weak performance tracking. If you have these issues, then FIDIC contributes mechanism for testing, penalties, and completion. Certainly, everybody wants a remedy. If things have delayed, either from the employer side or from the contractor side, there has to be something to cover up. So that's a wonderful mechanism in this. Use of FIDIC contracts, donor-funded projects. It could be any one of them. FIDIC is preferred for standardization, transparencies, risk clarities, and capacity building. So you do have SBDs, but I think this one is FIDIC outbeats that, particularly for high value one. Large-scale infrastructure project, transports, roads, bridges, railways, airports, and each contract is more than $10 million, I'm sure. Energy. Here also the project moves more than 10, 15, 20, then FIDIC comes in the way. You want to do water and sanitation, depends. If you're doing in the city, it may be small values, but if you're doing on a metro basis, it may be more. Urban developments, you want to come with the housing for the poor, you want to come with the smart cities around. In those cases, certainly FIDIC helps you. As I said in the beginning, FIDIC is not only for national contract, it can be not only for international, but also for national. Particularly if somebody else is funding you, you want to create a confidence in them, then it helps you. Why FIDIC works? Adaptability, dispute avoidance, life cycle coverage. This one certainly has attracted everyone, triple P. So triple P, I could have BOT type, build. I'm the contractor. I build it, a highway, and I operate it also. And to cover my costs, because the government didn't have the money, so I operate it. And that operate means I cover through the toll my charge expense around. And then later I transfer back to the government. So it could be like a toll road. Then there are BOOT, power plants. Build, I operate, I own it, and then I transfer later on to them. DBO, water plants around, and concession. When the airport is made by the government, but then they give it to someone to manage it for 10 years, 15 years, that's what we call concession. So there could be BOT, there could be BOOT, and last is DBOs, design, build, and operate. So why FIDIC is suitable? Clear performance, private sector risk management, investor confidence. That's a plus point, and alignment with triple P framework. I think triple P is really gaining a big importance on this. India's, we are doing quite a big projects around on the Ganges Water River. It was a World Bank funded projects. We use the Gold Book, design, build, and operate, DBO. Why FIDIC? Performance based on 10 to 15 years on a DBO model. Then we have emphasized long-term. Outcome was enhanced performance tracking, reduced pollution, and improved project sustainability. Key comparisons between the local contracts versus FIDIC. I know I'm repeating this word, but I think it's important to emphasize, each one of you have your own contract. Whichever country you are, whether from India, whether from US, each one have their own local contract. So these are created by the national agencies. But the one with the FIDIC contract developed by the FIDIC, scope is international infrastructures, donor-funded projects, legal framework based on common principle, but applicable law is same, which it is not that it's not applicable. FIDIC does not mean this is beyond the applicable law. Applicable law is same. If I'm doing in Kenya, it's applicable of Kenya. India, I mean applicable of India. I'm doing in Singapore, it's again Singapore. So applicable law is same of the country. The language part, you can standardize it. It could be English. And dispute resolution, that is a little different. So it has a structured DAAB arbitration. While the local cases, they only go with the local one, local courts. Balanced and transparent. Often employer friendly, but there's a lot of ambiguities around. This one certainly aligned with all the banks. Flexibility is there. So that's a plus point of the FIDIC versus the local contract. Value-wise, I told you already, that means less than $1 million. Standard contract, but FIDIC is more than $5 million. I may use FIDIC green one for $500,000 and above, but for others, I'll go with this one value. Customization of FIDIC for local use. Customization means general condition. I will follow standardized clauses common to all the projects. Particular conditions I can customize. So that means if I take a red book, if I take a yellow book, if I take a green book, they have a general condition. General condition I'll write down as it is, whatever is mentioned. But on top of it, depending on the country where I work, depending on the country requirements, I may have to create some customization. For governing laws, certainly. Which law is applicable? The guy is funding me from another country, says, no, my law will apply. You're not going to travel to that country around every time for a small disputes. No. You will say, I know my governing law. It's in my land. It's my money. So governing law. The language of the contract. You may like to have Spanish. You may like to have French. You may like to have in English. Or Arabic or some other language. You can have it. Tax and labor law compliance around. Local dispute resolution procedures around. Site-specific requirement. So those things can be added into the particular condition. So particular conditions, you can certainly add those around. And in case you're feeling that the currency's fluctuations could happen around, then that also could be hedged into this. FIDIC clause, I'm just taking the very few examples of those ones around. Let's say clause 20 for claim and distribution. Now I could customize it. So I could replace the arbitration scene with local codes if you want that. Clause 14, the payments part, tax reduction, payments, currencies. If I'm based on X or Y country, I could convert them, comply with the domestic tax laws. Because sometimes these are must from the state government, countryside, so I may have to adjust. Standard conditions will remain same. But then I'll come with special conditions complying with this. Clause 4. I'm trying to take the key one where I know every country wants some changes around. Contractor staff. Customization element, labor laws. Which law is applicable? Visas. There are many people coming from other countries around. So visa part has to be there. Safety regulation is there. So I could change them as per the national employment law. If national employment law says, guys, no one else can work here, it has to be the local people, then you may have to think around. Clause 1 and 1.4, the laws and the languages, governing law, contract languages. So these are taken the very few key one which normally we think of changes. So you can do it based on the local. So that customization is. So it's not set in stone. So when it comes to the life cycle, let's talk about the life cycle. It completes from tendering stage, from the very beginning, the solicitation stage, award of the contracts, mobilization, site processing, design part, planning part, construction, monitoring and controls, completion and handover. And even after completion, it's still not over. The cycle is not complete. Defects liability, let's say over 12 months. Somebody say, no, I need for 2 years, 24 months. You could do it. Final accounts and contract closeout. That's what we come. And that stage, I give my release of bonds around. So from beginning of tendering till I give the release of bond, the whole life cycle, including the defect liability period, FIDIC covers around. Integrating AI into the FIDIC contract, certainly when you're dealing with such a complex process around, hundreds, even thousands of steps are there. And each step delay means it could increase the cost for you. So sometimes difficult for us to manage it. I think AI can support us. There are many softwares available on this. So project management software, but then I can integrate AI into this. So anytime you can ask, can you tell me the steps where I'm lagging behind, which could create some kind. So this is able to help us. AI can play a significant role in these areas. We will cover again the use of AI in FIDIC contracts and their management. So when we come to the full-fledged training, certainly we'll have full session on this. So role of AI in FIDIC contract management and project is very transformative. It's I would say, big relief to many people around, addressing contract critical areas, particularly on the risk management side, financial risk, delay risk, quality risk, any risk around, and compliance. So AI can certainly support us. Benefits of AI, efficiencies, accuracies, and it's not a reactive one, it's a proactive one, cost saving and transparency. The areas where AI can be used around drafting, legal AI platforms. There are softwares available, as I said to you, Kira is another one, they can draft on your behalf. Monitoring and compliance, I can have a contract lifecycle management system. This is the name of the, I'm not promoting the name, but point is they are the one which are very visible in the today's world. Claims and risk. You want to say, guys, predictive analytics. Is it going to happen? What claim evaluation engines? Communication part, intelligent bots are there, BOTs, which can write for you, automated reminders, knowledge and training, adaptive. So these are the tools available to make your AI, so you could have one assistant to support you further. So this is where we come down, guys, to the questions. I've taken 3 questions around, but then I can leave the floor later. Any one of you want to answer this? What is the primary role of the engineer in a FIDIC contract? I know I went too fast, but tell me, anyone's? Yes, Abdul Rahman.
B.
Come on, guys, tell me A, B, C, D.
Is B.
Okay, supervise. Excellent, excellent. Shalandar is also. Shalandar, what is yours? B or A or C, D?
B is the answer, sir.
B.
B is the
Okay,
answer,
good. So it supervises the work and administers the contract. It's basically on behalf of the employer. So that's the way. I'll just take the second one. Which FIDIC book is commonly used where the employer provides a design? This should be the easy one.
It's super duper flat.
Red.
Abdul Rahman, which one you say? Anyone else?
Red
B is the answer.
Red. The answer is red, sir. Red
Oh,
book.
red book. So full
Red
marks for
book.
you.
Red book, yes.
Red book.
Excellent,
Red
excellent,
book.
my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one. I've got small questions here before I give the floor to you for question answers. So what is the typical time frame for the contractors to notify the engineers to claim event? I have not covered it, but still, if anyone knows who's already working in this project, anyone knows, you have an engineer on behalf of the employer. So there's a contractor who wants to make a complaint. What is the typical time frame?
Typically 14 days to 30.
Please.
Okay, good. And if it's
Typical
20
time frame is 12 days.
Okay, Abdul. Good. People can modify it, but normally the
Yes, it's 12 days,
system
sir.
calls for 24. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
List 2 key benefits. What are the key benefits? Now, if I say I go for FIDIC, what are the key things around which highlights it?
Dispute resolution, sir.
Dispute resolution number 1. I would say dispute resolution.
Transparency.
Right?
Transparency, which will build the trust.
Oh,
Prepare
very
risk
right.
allocation.
Investors. Certainly, the trust comes up around. Investors are confident into that.
Promote
Last
fairness
one.
and balance.
Risk management.
Yes,
Risk
Rhoda, cost
management.
management. Yes. Okay, good.
Risk
I know it's a
Prepare
big list.
risk allocation.
Yeah.
Align
But
with
if I had to
international
highlight them,
practices.
I would go with the 2 things around. One is the trust
Yes.
because of the investor. Second is my risk management here.
Yeah.
The next one is what is the function of
What is the function? The dispute
Anyone-
adjudication board done.
It is
To avoid the long-term litigation process.
very
of course,
good,
yeah.
very good.
Litigation comes with a lot
All
of
developing
money.
countries,
It is too expensive.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Vali. Okay, guys, now I give thanks to you all for the patient hearing. I know 60 minutes, it was too much to absorb around. But when we come with the training program, with the 2 days training, we'll go into the depth of everything, including AI. So let me now switch over to the Q&A. Any questions? Next 5-10 minutes, you want to ask questions?